Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you and welcome to our town council meeting, the first one of June. It's delightful to see each and every one of you at our meeting. I hope that we will be informative and be able to provide you the information that you're interested in this evening. So with that, council, we will stand for a pledge of allegiance, and then Councilman Helms will conduct our invocation. Thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, as we come before you tonight, we'd be remiss not to say thank you for the blessings that you bestowed upon us, for the blessing of being able to live here in the town of Fort Mill. Pray that you be with us tonight, guide us, direct us, give us wisdom to conduct the town's business. We give you the praise and glory and honor for it all. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ronnie. All right, council members, you have received the minutes for the May 13th town council meeting. Then you've received the minutes for May 14th, May 20th, and May 23rd special called council meetings. Do you have any changes, deletions, or additions for those minutes?
Make a motion. Yeah.
Move to approve.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Public comment. And we have a large gallery tonight. Pursuant to 2-46 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, any citizen of the town may appear before council for the purpose of providing public comments on any municipal matter except personnel. Those who wish to speak must sign in outside of council chambers prior to the start of the meeting. Citizens will be given 3 minutes each to speak. I have a number of signees, of which some are for the public hearing, and even though you have no Fort Mill address, no town of Fort Mill address, you're welcome for the public hearing. For those of you that signed up for public comment, due to the ordinance, and because I've lived here a couple of generations, I know some of these addresses are not in the town of Fort Mill. So if you're here collectively for an issue, the persons that have signed up, if you live in the town of Fort Mill, then you are welcome to come to the podium and speak.
There you go. You're going to read it.
Does it count if you are under contract on the house?
No, ma'am, it does not. But that was a good try.
Good try.
And let me explain. Now, I would like to explain, because I think this is one of those moments that government isn't always as clear as it seems. We only have jurisdiction for the things that we can do within the town, and we have accountability to the people that put us in these seats, and we have to spend our time doing just that. We must be accountable to those people. So please know it's not because we don't want to hear you. It's not because what you say might not be terribly important. It's just it's our process and it's an ordinance. So we have to do what we need to do. So do you have someone from your group that is willing to speak?
Does that person have, can we stand next to, does that person, she lives in the city. We all live right in here. Fort Mill.
That's
not
fine.
The city.
That's fine.
I don't know what all they wrote.
There's 3 minutes.
You have 3 minutes. So do you live in the city as well?
No, I live right back. No,
You do not.
I do not.
Okay, so you cannot speak.
I will not speak. I won't speak.
Somebody break out the duct tape. I'm kidding. I'm only kidding.
I'm
Yes.
not a good speaker, but
Oh, I'm sure you'll be fine.
I am going to.
So we spoke before Rock Hill, the city, in front of there, and so they did allow us to. So is there a different time that we could do that?
No, ma'am. There is an ordinance in Fort Mill. We do not hold ourselves subjective to the ordinances of Rock Hill, nor they ours. So I've been with the city here at this dais for 20 years, and it has been the same for 20 years. So it makes sense if you think about it, but it also makes it uncomfortable when we have people before us that would like to express something to us. So please just understand, we're following what our ordinances are.
May I say something without,
Of
like, this is
course.
about.
Of course.
I would say that the reason that we're here is because what we're talking about affects the city, or affects the town of Fort Mill, okay? And the support that we all do is in the town of Fort Mill.
Okay.
So,
Including me.
so that, right, so that is why we thought it was appropriate, but I'm not arguing with you. I'm just
I know.
telling you
I'll-
that we
I'll-
And
understand.
I promise I'm not trying to be rude or.
No, I know you're not.
I'm not, I promise.
No, I understand.
So let's hear what
Okay,
we
I'm
might
gonna-
be able to respond to.
I'm going to tell you a little bit, just my little tiny notes that I wrote down, which
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
really make sense, I guess, until we
what?
read everything, but,
You start here.
yeah.
you.
Okay, all right, I'll read.
You just read,
Okay.
just read.
All right. The county keeps track of the numbers of animals that enter the county shelter each month. Fort Mill was at the top of the list in May 2024 due to the tidal wave of 103 animals brought into the shelter from the Unity Street house. In fact, the case affected the entire community as the shelter had shut down services to the public. This one house in Fort Mill affected so many people in the community, including all the neighbors, the police department, AC employees, and every single rescue, all of us, in the community surrounding counties and those out of state. This situation also affected the adoption chances of rescue chances of the animals already in the shelter. They had to make room for the new animals that came in from Unity Street. This was over 100 animals. Keep in mind the shelter has not expanded in 22 years. So why are we here? Backyard dog breeding business, hobby breeding, dog fighting, hoarding, and neglect are here in our town, of Fort Mill. These problems affect the quality of life of Fort Mill residents. It affects property values and enjoyment of property. It affects community services, and it affects the volunteers who manage and support animal rescues in York County. AC can do nothing about these properties that have multiple outdoor dogs, nor can they do anything about unlicensed, untaxed breeding businesses, nor can they do anything about hoarders or people who are irresponsible and allow their animals to have litter after litter. Although AC can do nothing, Fort Mill can do something. Fort Mill can take action to improve the lives and property of Fort Mill residents. And I'm going to read real quick what I jotted down. So just down the street, 4 streets over from me on Joe Louis Street, there's a house that I stopped over there because I help a lot of community dogs in Rock Hill, and they're all pit bulls. They're all just, their owners can't take care of them. They were going to try to surrender them. The shelters can't take them, so I try to help them. This particular house has been notorious for years of breeding, and I stopped to give them food on Memorial Day for their dogs, and I said, yes, I love pit bulls. Can I pet your dogs? And he said, sure. He said, we're just about to drop another litter for $1,000 each if you're interested. It's just continuous. And our Spay Neuter Coalition, we offer free spay and neuter for pit bull and pit bull mixes. And all these people over here know this. They just want to make it easy buck. These animals are going back out in the community, and we're trying to clean up all their mess. We're sending all these animals up to New Jersey, to, different states, trying to get them safe and out of here because the laws aren't strict enough. And, yeah. A few years ago, a Fort Mill police officer stumbled into men coming out of the woods with a pit bull. They found a rotting pit bull dog carcass in a plastic barrel with other dogs on short chains in the woods. Wooden crates and plywood that were nailed and screwed together to make a rectangle. They were put together to create 2 openings, one in each end of the structure. The makeshift pen is consistent with the dog fighting pen, according to the report. The police officer asked if there were fighting dogs, and they said no, he bred them. He asked to look at the dogs of the man who lived close by the woods. The owner became angry and upset. Sanders and Joe Louis, about 37 wooded acres owned by Clear Springs Land Company, a perfect place to dogfight. I believe they were never charged. I also had a police officer that I met up at the Fort Mill Animal Clinic one day, and because he had picked up a dog for animal control, and he started talking about this house, and I can't remember what his name was. I have it at home somewhere. But he said that everyone who knew about them dogfighting a long time ago, they've all retired. And so he said that he would be interested in helping try to figure out what's going on there. We're hoping to meet with you to brainstorm an ordinance or permit that would drive this out and help reduce the volume of animals in our area. Can we start reading yours?
We still only have 3 minutes, regardless of how many people pass paper up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, yeah, we're just kind of wondering why we can't have a law for these backyard breeders to be licensed, or, why don't they have to pay taxes on these, this business that they're creating? Because they're just making a problem that we're trying to clean up, and we're trying to help these animals, and all these animals are just suffering. Yeah, you want me to walk up there and get to them?
Yeah.
Okay. Just to each one. Can't see with my glasses.
I relate to that.
No, we're mostly all animal owners too, so.
Y'all are animal lovers too.
Yes.
I've got 3 rescues myself, so.
Thank you.
And we know where some dog fighters live in Rock Hill.
No, and for
We're pretty good at dressing undercover.
So, I would like to respond.
Should I
And
sit
typically,
down?
are you finished? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Typically, animal control is funded and staffed and housed in York County. We do not have an animal control unit in Fort Mill.
Right.
Our police department must obey the laws. You want them to.
Mm-hmm.
So if your neighbor said, she's got stuff in her house and I don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
they may or may not be telling the truth. But our officers have zero way of entering your home without something being provided to them that gives us legitimate reason that we could get a search warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Those are hard.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that coin, I 100% thank you for what you're doing for God's creatures that can't say anything, that can't yell for help. The situation on Unity Street was extreme, to say the least. It was. But until we have a way to enter a property, we cannot.
And
There
they-
is no HOA in, there is one in my neighborhood. And if my HOA found out I only have 1 dog, but if we can't have but 2,
Yeah.
they would put a lien on our home and we'd have a problem.
Yeah. I
So
would have
there-
a problem. We have several.
There are means to do, but it boils down to how cruel can people be? And how can we enforce a law that we don't have the people to do so? We don't. I could put I have a policeman sitting in the corner, and do we have enough that we could enforce every good or bad thing that happens in town? No, we do not. So I am proud of our police department, and I am proud of what they do. And they do want the calls, they do. Because somewhere, somehow, ultimately, they figure out how to get to the problem.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that this one occurred as it did.
Yeah.
It's way unfortunate. And it breaks my heart. You can ask Alan, he knows. I love my dog. My dog's, sorry, but he's better than most people.
And I can tell you, if I
What she
can,
tells us.
It is.
if I can tell you really quickly, so we were displaced for a year because a tree fell on our house. So I missed when these people moved in, but they started out with helping animals, and it turned into a hoarding thing. You know, they had 3 dogs of their own, and they started, taking in dogs and animals that other people just didn't want, or free animals, whatever. So I think their hearts weren't evil. It turned into a bad thing. I always try to see the good
That
in
was kind
somebody,
of you to
but
say that. I just hate that it happened
I know.
right here in the middle of us.
I know.
I do.
It's really,
I do.
it was shocking, yeah. I mean, just shocking.
But I do make a commitment to you with my council members, and I know they'll support us, that we will do what we can. We've had people in the last 2 years in front of us that wanted to have farm animals in town, and I know people that do. It's illegal. I don't care how much we talk about it, it's illegal. We don't have a way of going to every residence every day to see what they picked up over the weekend. We just
Right.
don't. But it does take loving people like yourselves to take up for those that can't. So I support you in what you're doing. And if there's anything that we can address that would avoid that in the future, I know this council will.
Thank you so much. That means so much, and just to feel like
It's
we're
not just
heard.
words.
Yeah,
We do
to
mean
feel
it.
like we're heard, because we all care so much. And she has her own rescue.
Well,
This girl
and
here.
we did help the county with their ordinances, and so we were just hoping to at some point meet with you all and just brainstorm. It doesn't have to be here, of course, but just brainstorm some things that other cities do to help. So if every municipality does it, it could help.
If you would like to send an email with the
sounds
best
good.
practices that you see in other places,
Great.
then we'll be more than happy to insert that into our thinking process and how we go about making changes to those ordinances.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank
yes.
you to each
Thank you all.
of you
Thank
for
you,
being
and
so
we're-
kind.
We're so sorry. We're sorry about
Thank you.
pretty much everything. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else on the public comment sheet other than the ladies that just left? Seeing no one, I'm gonna put a big check on this one. It's a sad situation, folks. There are many sad situations. All right, we're going to begin with presentations. Presentation number 1, 2023-24 fiscal year audit by Green, Finney, and Cawley LLP, who has served the town of Fort Mill for quite some time. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and to work with y'all. And I'll just say up front, I think it's a little bit later in the presentation, but this was another challenging year and audit with transition in the finance department, but the people who are here really stepped up, really from Chris and Eric all the way down to be able to get this audit turned around and done so that the town could take care of the other transactions that they needed to as a result. So, Eric, I know you'll thank your staff for me.
Yes.
By the way,
Yes, ma'am.
we're most proud of Eric's presence on our staff and the expertise that he brings to us. We do have targets and goals that we intend to meet, and we will make certain that they are met. And Eric, we love you, and we're very grateful that you have joined us. So thank you so much for your work, because oftentimes it's difficult to work in a vacuum, isn't it? Thank you.
Absolutely. I actually just the PDF of the financial statements was done in May because we needed to get that to y'all so you could do your transactions. I just delivered the paper financials to Eric. So after you've had a chance to look at all that, if I need to come back to answer some questions or have some more discussion, know that I'm more than happy and willing to do that.
Thank you.
So when we talk about the audit and the financial statements, just a quick reminder, you guys have heard this before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but the financial statements are yours. And what's behind the scenes that we don't always think about with financial statements is all the internal controls and processes. That's all part of the responsibility of the town. And if you go to the next slide, what you ask us to do is to perform our audit. The end result of that audit is the opinion that we issue. That's what everybody's looking for, the rating agencies and financial advisors and everybody else. And I'm just simply glad to tell you that for the year ended 9/30/23, the town received an unmodified opinion, which I know that doesn't mean anything to anybody, but that's as good an opinion as you can get, no matter who you are. So you should all feel good about that, your leadership and the staff and everything they've done. So with that, let's kind of talk about briefly where the town was at last year end in terms of your financial condition. And as a reminder, we always start with general fund balance, because when you talk about the rating agencies and all the people who understand governmental financials and want to see how the town's doing, this is what they're going to look at. What's your general fund balance look like? So you can see in total, your total fund balance for general fund increased about 6.9 million to 27. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide, because the focus is on the unassigned fund balance, because that's what's available for the town to use for future operations. So the key number we look at is what is that as a percentage of what you've budgeted for the next year. So you can see you're at 75% of what you've budgeted for 2024, which is well above the minimum recommendation that the government finance officers set and above what you all have established as your goal as far as general fund balance for unassigned fund balance. So everything is great from that perspective, for sure. Next slide. And this is just a reminder, and this is really probably appropriate to talk about since we just did the debt and buying the property and all. But there's a couple things that are really important from a fund balance perspective. One of them is just from a cash flow perspective, because property taxes come in a very short window. And so the town's really got to look at the rest of the year and make sure between that and your other revenue sources that you're going to be good from a cash flow perspective. But the healthy fund balance, I think you all saw the benefits of that when you issued your debt, AA+, good interest rate. Those things happen because you have a good, healthy, unassigned general fund balance. So good examples. Next slide. So I've just got a couple slides, one that kind of hits the highlights in terms of what it looked like general fund revenue for the year. You can see you were about 2.2 million higher than you were in 22 and about 800,000 over budget, primarily due to property tax. The revenues continue to go up with the growth, et cetera. And then on the expenditure side, on the next slide, really good results there too, because you'll see the increase from 22 about 1.9, which was less than what your revenue increased, which is what you want to see. But you can see you were about 4.5 million under budget, which is what the primary driver was for your increase in the general fund balance. And a lot of that was capital outlay, as well as not being fully staffed, and so seeing savings on the salary and benefit side. You've got a few other major funds that you're involved with. You can see the capital projects fund had a small deficit. That's going to be taken care of in the future. It's disclosed in the financials. Everything is good there. The ARPA money, you can see at 9/30/23, you still have about 8.6 million left. That is what you guys were able to claim as lost revenue for general fund, which means there's no attachments to that money. You can use it however you want to. Next slide. And then you've got two other funds. One's your gross revenue fund, your water and sewer, continuing to see good results there from a financial perspective. You can see with your growth, you're continuing to see a lot of capital contributions in terms of donated infrastructure, about $3 million for that year. And then the next slide talks about your stormwater fund, and it continues to do well also. Two quick notes. One, capital assets. You can see you had about 22 million additions. Most of that was donated infrastructure from various places. You have your ongoing projects with the tennis facility, sewer projects. And then the next slide kind of highlights the debt, which obviously that's going to change for this next year, but continuing to make your debt payments like you need to. There really isn't a whole lot coming up in the future. So for 24, there's one minor thing that we've already talked about with Eric and the staff. So really nothing to talk about in terms of what's coming up in the future, which is nice for a change. And then, we continue to have, hopefully I think this is the last year that we're continuing to have the issue closing out the year with the bank recs. That's the only finding we have. We did not have to do a single audit because all the ARPA we did all our work on that last year. And the other document you'll get with the financial statements is the management letter. And just as a reminder, there's two things in there. One is some required communication from us to you. So if there's any issues regarding the audit that we need to address, they'd be in there, but there aren't any. Again, staff were very helpful and things went well. We always keep kind of another just document to the side that's a bunch of minor things that we might see just to bring to staff's attention just as you continue to get better at what you do and continue to try to improve. Eric and I have talked about we want to wait until you get your new finance person in, and when that person gets in, that's going to be the time for us to all sit down and kind of talk about all that. And that's it. So you got the great opinion. Your financial condition is very good. And again, your staff were extremely helpful. So very, very thankful for y'all. And I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody's got anything.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm good.
None? Thank you so very much, and we are indeed pleased with our current staff. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move to presentation number 2, 2024 Independence Day Celebration Presentation. Jacana Hester.
Good evening. So we are going to be talking about our Independence Day celebration. I don't think this thing's going to work. You're going to have to do it for me.
That's fine.
No, it changed.
Was that you or me?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to kick off our Independence Day celebration, which is Wednesday, July 3rd. At 6 p.m., we're going to be having a Most Patriotic contest that is open to all ages, and all you have to do is arrive to the amphitheater stage dressed in your most patriotic attire, and then our Barry and our Queens will be judging the contestants, and we will be giving out prizes for that. Then from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the amphitheater stage, we'll have River Mist Band. They are a classic rock, R&B, and variety band, and they were the 2023 Carolina Beach Music Awards Cammy winner for Rising Star, and they will also be doing the national anthem during the ceremony.
Great.
And then we will be doing our ceremony at 7:30 p.m. where we will celebrate our nation's 248th birthday with town council and our queens, and we'll have special music during that. And then from 8 to 9:15 p.m. we have Blackwater Band. They are top 40 blues, funk, and country, and they will be closing out the evening for us. And then State Line Productions will be in our food court DJing from 6 to 9:30 p.m. We have 27 food vendors that evening, all kinds of food and drinks and snacks. And then we'll have 30 vendors that just have lots of fun products that they will be doing in games, things like that all evening. And then we will have beer and wine will be available. We have roving entertainment. We have our yard games, and then kids crafts. Piedmont Medical Center will be hosting the kids crafts out there. They'll have their own tent set up for that. And then the big finale is our fireworks display at 9:15 p.m. And this is just a layout of the event. With our vendors over on the amphitheater side, and then we'll have our food court with picnic tables over on the other side of the park. And our road closures, we will be closing North White from Old Nation to Ardrey Street at approximately 8:30 until 10 for the fireworks show. Ardrey Street will be closed 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Main Street will be closed from 2 p.m. on Wednesday because y'all approved for them to have Main Street closed, for them to have their own events that evening on Main Street. So we will be closing that down at 2 p.m. and then we will leave it closed through 11 a.m. on Thursday, July 4th to accommodate the firing of the cannons. And then parking is available at Veterans Park, 106 North White Street, Calhoun Street Park, 203 Calhoun Street, Looms Way, and then we'll have amphitheater lot will be for the handicapped. And that's just a few pictures from 2023. Had a beautiful evening last year, and we hope for great weather again. And then tonight we are seeking a resolution designating Walter Elijah Park on Wednesday, July 3rd from 6 to 9:30 p.m. as the site of a public festival in which alcoholic beverages may be sold, possessed, and consumed, and to authorize a special event permit for live music and sound amplifying equipment, and to authorize a fireworks display for this date and time.
Wonderful.
And then, of course, follow us on social media. Visit our website, fortmillsc.gov.
It's not too early to start praying for good weather.
Yep, absolutely. 80 degrees and cloudy would be great until fireworks would be great.
Jacana has worked so diligently, and her staff. Hey,
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, Chris. You guys have worked so hard to make everything perfect for us this year, and the weather hasn't always participated in the best of ways. But you continue to work hard, and we are certainly grateful for your efforts. So thank you so much. This is special. I, for one, appreciate that we do this on the night before the 4th. We just seem to make it a little bit easier for our public to get together. It's cooler. So I hope that you will all join us for this event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You just want to stay in place because I think you're going to tell us about the firing of the cannons, presentation number 3.
So the 52nd annual firing of the cannons will be on Thursday, July 4th at 10 a.m. at the bandstand on Main Street. During our ceremony, we will have the welcome, opening prayer, posting of the flags, the pledge, our national anthem, the recognition of dignitaries. We always present the history of the firing of the cannons. We'll have special music, and then we have the cannon information, the warning and countdown, and then we fire the cannons, number 1 and number 2. And our cannoneers are the Short family, and this will be their 51st year leading this historical event. Wow. And this is just a site map of the event, showing some road closures and just the way everything's laid out. So we will have roads closed during this event for safety. We close White Street from Main to Spratt, and then Main will be closed from Academy to Tom Hall, Confederate from Main to Monroe, and then North White, Main to Claiborne, and then Railroad Avenue from approximately 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. They'll be coning off Main Street, which will already be closed. I won't need to cone it off from the night before. Some of Railroad Avenue will be coned, and also there's certain spots in Veterans parking lot that they have to cone off for safety. And then parking for this is at Veterans Park. We also have the downtown municipal lots at Town Hall, 200 Tom Hall, and then behind the downtown merchants, and then also the Old Hardee's lot, 101 Tom Hall Street, and Baptist Church, 121 Monroe White. And this is just our pictures from last year. And then tonight we are seeking a resolution designating the bandstand and Main Street as the site of a public event, and to authorize a special event permit for live music, sound amplifying equipment, and firing of the cannons on Thursday, July 4th from 10 to 11 a.m.
Thank you, Jacana. And for all of you that have not attended this event, I can tell you this particular event is very unique and special to Fort Mill, but it is extremely hot at every time we've done this. So if you join us, just plan accordingly, because I've never been to one that wasn't hot. But it is something that we thank the Short family for being involved in this for 51 years. And we look forward to doing it. I miss the days that it used to blow out the windows in the Fort Mill Times. But,
I think we should strike that comment from the record. I was there when that happened.
Teasing only. But it's a real deal.
Yeah.
So we look forward to this celebratory time of our nation's history. So Fort Mill looks pretty good in red, white, and blue, doesn't it?
does.
All right.
I will say it's a very unique, and I always, when I meet newcomers to town, I said if you've never been to the event, you should come. It's a very unique and very all-American small town type thing. So it's a great event.
Of all the cool events we do, this is probably one of the coolest we do. So look forward to it every year. So
I think it's important too, and I know you would agree with me, that we take this time to thank the guys and girls that go about decorating for this. When you look at the pictures and you look at the work, you think that just happens magically. It does not. That takes hours of time to make our town look that beautiful. And I'm just so grateful for the folks that are able to do that. So dress up, don your best red, white, and blue, and join us for the 4th of July.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chicana.
Okay, now we'll move into old business item number 1, second reading, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the town of Fort Mill to change the zoning designation for York County tax map number, my favorite part, 02012011119, and a portion of tax map 02012012274, containing approximately 6.5 acres located in the vicinity of North Doby's Bridge Road and Fort Mill Parkway from P&D, which stands for Planned Neighborhood Development, to HC, or Highway Commercial Zoning District. This is in Ward 4, boy, that is a misnomer for Mr. Moody, isn't it? Ward 4 District. Councilman Chris Moody, and Penelope, you're our subject matter expert.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. This is second reading old business. One thing that has changed, there was an updated survey. So last time at first reading, there was approximately 15 acres. They did the survey, and it's actually 6.5 acres for those. Mr. Ted Barnes is here tonight as well, representing Harris Steeder and Durbin Group. He did provide the original signatures for the transportation mitigation agreement, and we're ready to go.
Perfect. Any questions on this particular item?
Yeah, just Penelope, I went through and read the whole 66-page document, which is always fun. I just want to confirm that on page 63 of the documents, section 1.5 is where the TIA improvements that are required by the developer, is that where they are listed? Seems to be the best place as opposed to trying to read it all the other.
I don't have the actual page numbers with me, but it is where
there
it
is
says
a summary in the actual order.
A summary and then the exhibit 1 as identified mitigation improvements, and that's part of the TMA as well.
Right, as opposed to reading all the numbers, and that sounded like that was a good summary. Okay, no edits or other comments.
Good. Any other comments? I am seeking a motion on this particular item. It is second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve a new business item.
Old
business item number 1.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve old business item number 1, second reading. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, thank you so much. Old business item number 2, second reading, an ordinance amending the town of Fort Mill's fireworks regulations for public displays. Hurry up.
Or you'll get strapped to a cannon.
That's right. That's right. Never hurts to say it. Just for the record. An ordinance amending the town of Fort Mill's fireworks regulations for public displays. Eric Davis. Hi, Eric.
Yes, ma'am. So this item, due to new permitting and enforcement guidelines by the state and state fire marshal's office, the town is required to amend its fireworks regulations for public displays. In essence, this ordinance amendment transfers the approval authority, inspections, and enforcement to the state and away from the town. This is the second reading of this proposed ordinance amendment, and there have been no changes from the first reading, with the council vote at first reading being unanimous approval.
Wonderful. Good information. Does anyone have any questions? I think it's important to note that this is a change to make us more consistent and to do what is correct for Fort Mill. Well, it's just like with all the other issues. We can't be in everybody's backyard at one time, but we certainly want to regulate activities that take away the pleasure of enjoyment of people's properties. So no matter how we enforce it, I would encourage everyone, since we only have one more meeting before the 4th, to use caution and care as they celebrate, so as not to damage other people's properties or peace. So with that, I'm looking for a motion for old business item number 2, second reading.
Make a motion to approve old business item number 2.
Second.
I have a motion in 2 seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, thank you so much. Old business item number 3, second reading, an ordinance establishing a broadband services franchise agreement with Google Fiber, Inc. Eric, you're up to bat again.
Thank you. This is the second reading of the proposed ordinance that establishes a franchise for Google Fiber here in the corporate limits of Fort Mill. At the first reading, the council vote was unanimous in favor of the ordinance, 6-0 with 1 recusal. There have been no substantive changes to the agreement since the first reading. However, there was one slight change on page 3 where we added the payment date for the franchise payment to read 45 days after the effective date and annually thereafter. And the payment's $1,000 annually. So we'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have any questions on this particular item? No comments, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve old business item number 3.
Thank you. Have a motion?
I'll second.
And I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, thank you so much. Now we'll move into new business. New business item number 1 requires a public hearing. We will begin the public hearing first, and then we will move into first reading. The text amendment, an ordinance to add parking standards for ambulatory surgical facilities and other matters relating thereto. Penelope is our subject matter expert. We will open the public hearing now. Is there anyone that would like to speak? I had a feeling.
Good evening, Mayor Savage and council members. Hope you all can hear me. First of all, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to just to go over with the flow of the how we work in an ambulatory surgery center versus medical office building. As you all know, there is a significant number of patients are going to across the state line to have their procedure done. And just want to let you know that we just purchased the land in Fort Mill. I think you raised that question, Mayor Savage. Yes, we have property in Fort Mill on
You're
a
fine
Munn
in a
Road.
public hearing, I welcome you.
And
Public
again,
hearings, we don't have the same ordinance, so you're good.
and we have, I'm a cardiologist, Dr. Singhi. I have my partner, Dr. Basant Patel. And
You're
we
Dr.
do-
Singhi?
Yes,
Thank you. You have served many of my friends well.
thank you.
Thank you.
We feel
Thank
very
you, sir.
safe right now.
Yes,
with
we do.
so much.
all the food.
I'm here for only one reason.
Yes, sir.
Tax amendment, right? The ambulatory surgery center, what we are planning to have is a freestanding ambulatory center on the Munn Road, right across the Kingsley.
Yes, sir.
And I just wanted to compare how the daily flow would be for ambulatory surgery center versus the medical office building, right? We've been practicing for last 42 years. So we've been well established. We opened up 2 offices here on 160. The brand new office is right next to the Fort Mill Hospital in the MOB. So we have 2 offices. The first office is right across the Lowe's, in the Lowe's complex where
Yes,
the
sir.
Holiday Inn Express is, right? We've been there for almost 18 years.
Yes, sir.
And we just opened the brand new office last year. So we are very proud to provide the full service cardiology services in this community. So if you look at this chart, I just prepared this chart and I'm just trying to compare the apple to oranges.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we know the day and night difference between ambulatory surgery center and medical office building. So ambulatory surgery center, ASC, the full-time staff would be anywhere from 5 to 8 staff members compared to full-time staff member at MOB, 25 to 30. Physicians or the surgeons will be 1 to 2 at ambulatory surgery center versus MOB anywhere from 5 to 6 physicians that particular day. Look at this is very important. The surgical procedure that we are planning to do is 8 to 12 procedures a day. In MOB, we do medical procedures, imaging specially, 10 to 20 per day. And this is the most important thing. The patients that will have the inflow in that surgery center will be 8 to 12 patients a day versus MOB, you can see 140 to 150 patients per day. If there are 5 physicians are working, and you can do the math, it's very simple math. It'll be 140 to 150 plus.
This
those
will be
imaging.
short appointments, right?
Exactly. What I'm trying to make a point there, this is the different kind of a project. It's not the medical office building. And I do need your help because there are a lot of patients are going out of this town to get the surgical procedure. There are approximately 12 freestanding ambulatory surgery centers across the state. And they do have anywhere from 0 to 3 parking space for 1,000 build-up. We are asking for 3 parking space for 1,000 build-up of our ambulatory surgery center. And I think the normal is about, for MOB is 4.5 parking spaces per 1,000 build-up. So my request, and I will conclude because I have only 3 minutes. I think I still have 2 minutes left.
Oh, you have time. You go right ahead.
So Carolina Cardiology Associates, we've been in this community since 1982, providing comprehensive care to York County population. So number one, the reason we want to build the ambulatory surgery center in Fort Mill is the easy accessibility to the patients. It's proximity to the Fort Mill Hospital. When we do the surgical procedures, it's good to have hospital nearby. In case if any complication happens, patient can be easily transferred to the hospital facility for safety reason. And last but not least, you all aware of it, the ambulatory surgery centers across the country are more affordable than inpatient in the hospital, those procedures. And as you all know, there is a shift in paradigm. A lot of those in-hospital procedures are being performed as an outpatient. The classic example would be the knee surgeries and hip surgeries and so forth. So there is a significant trend to be more affordable to our citizen to provide the ambulatory surgery center. So my request for you all to consider that. I know this is a new classification, but my sincere request to you all, put in a different category than just the medical office building. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you
While you're here, I was just going to ask you what is the reasoning to try to make a special adaptation for this particular use?
So just to give a historical perspective, I'm glad you asked, Mr. Huggins. In the state of South Carolina, until July of last year, we had CON, right, Certificate of Need. Right. And it's been repealed since then. And now there are more and more ambulatory surgery centers are opening up. There is a need for cardiovascular ambulatory surgery center to provide the care, health care for our citizen in this county, in this township. And main reason for us to provide, we have qualified, board certified, well-experienced, well-trained cardiologists and vascular surgeons in our practice to serve that purpose, to have ambulatory surgery center.
Right. I understand that. That's definitely a need, but I'm just really addressing the reason that we should make a special provision for your facility for the parking.
So it's not for special permission for our ambulatory surgery centers. Anybody, once we approve this ordinance, it will be for all the other interested party, right? So this is the one is going to happen, in my opinion, that like happening in other states. We want to be committed to this township. We have always been committed to Fort Mill Township, and we already have practice and office building for last almost 2 decades. So I believe that having this ambulatory surgery center, it will ease up the out-migration of the patient from here, right. Families' convenience, right? We are looking for family convenience. We can provide this service in our backyard.
Right. No, I understand.
I'm sorry.
We're missing the question.
That's Bryant Brown.
The property is only an acre.
Okay.
Okay. The regulations under South Carolina DHEC for ambulatory surgery, you have to have certain things in there.
Right.
So when we designed that building on that 1 acre that Penelope and we over on Monroe there,
right.
We're short. You have to have your code or your classification is 4.5. We don't have enough acreage there, and the whole idea is to get that surgery center close to the hospital. Mm-hmm. And the only available property was that piece of property. So yes, we're trying to put a size 10 foot in a horseshoe.
Right.
But the big thing to remember here is there is nowhere near the volume of a medical office building. It's lots quicker. And matter of fact, Penelope, correct me if I'm wrong, because of that, we didn't have to do the TIA. It was denied. We didn't have to do the traffic count because it's so low. That's why we're asking for that. Excuse me for interrupting.
No,
that's exactly
you're
the
addressing
question.
the question.
Yeah, the reason for it is because of the four procedures in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, the low staff.
Right.
And we're going to elevate it to have, we need approximately with that square footage, we need about 50 something parking places. We've got 35 or 36, so we're a little short. So that's why we're looking for that 3 per 1,000. And again, I've done these things all over the place. I'm not trying to sell you on it, but it's a different animal. It's an apple and an orange versus like Dr. Singh was talking about where they're seeing 150, 175. It was no way where that would work over there.
I guess my concern is when you may not be in that building forever. So when it becomes a different purpose.
Okay. The building has to be designed for an ambulatory surgery to turn around. If they decide to leave town and go to the beach, it's built as an ambulatory surgery. It will have to stay as a medical facility.
It cannot be used anything else but the surgical procedures.
There are no exam rooms in there.
Right.
And it's built for that. So the chances of that, now that doesn't mean somebody comes along and knocks the building down or guts it out. Then you can go back to your regular classification, parking and stuff like that.
So is there, and I agree, I'd love for y'all to build this Fort Mill.
Right.
As the older I get, the more opportunity that might be needed. I've also been to, I think Rock Hill has some just general ambulatory surgery, not just for that. And I know parking is a travesty over there. So I am concerned about the decrease in parking. So the question would be, I don't know what's adjacent to that, would there be an opportunity to do a shared parking with some existing lots?
There's been discussion with the bank and discussion with the other office buildings, but for right now, we were trying to do it standalone. And you're exactly right. I did the orthopedics over at Rock Hill. I've done a number of these.
And you're
we
parking
didn't have any over there.
Right.
None.
I think they are sharing the it's not an independent
MOP.
ASC, by the way. They are sharing with their office building. Right. So there are a lot of kind of inflow of a lot of patients coming in to see the doctors, not just only for the surgical procedures.
But I've had discussion, to answer your question, with the two entities next door, and there's a possibility, but tonight I can't say that for sure, I've had the discussion with them.
And just, I'm sorry to steal your thing.
No, you're good.
The concern we have is, not talking apples and apples, but I'm going to build an insurance place which only has a traffic count of 20 cars a day, and it ends up being a small restaurant, which has a whole different, when you open, you just don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Mr. Wolf, can I answer that?
Sure.
James Chen, I'm a healthcare planner. Just think of it this way. If Piedmont Hospital decided to change their business, could they do that? They can't. It's structured with beds, it's structured with an ER, it's structured with an OR. So simply saying you can sell the building at a later date, no one would buy it except another hospital. And that's how DHEC would classify it.
I'm just throwing this out there, in South Carolina I've done about 60 of these. And I went back the other day, I was looking for some information on parking. And there's not one of them that has been sold in my last 40 years of doing it. It hasn't. They've expanded them. They've knocked it. In Charleston, that's a great town. They'll knock anything down there to build something. But to answer your question, I haven't seen any of this with these type of buildings. Now, if it was a medical hospital, that's a different ballgame. But this building's going to have oxygen in it, have all the things that are needed for procedures to do this. And as Dr. Singh was saying, it's a real asset for this community that's exploded in growth. So.
Is this first draft? Is this the first drawing that's gone to that you're not able to meet this the normal parking requirement that we have on the books?
We went for a variance and that was denied. So the next thing to do was to come to y'all to ask for a reclassification.
But that will rather than go back and try to refigure it.
I think at this point it would be great for you to present.
We're in a public hearing, so
Yes.
we may want to close the public hearing before I can answer some of these questions.
Thank you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you all. All right, we're going to close this public hearing. at this point. Penelope, would you provide an overview for us on this? Because I can see competing decisions or competing opinions on what works. What they've presented makes sense.
Sure.
But obviously there are some things I don't know. So could you enlighten me?
So I'm going to go ahead and start with my staff report, and then afterwards I'll try and answer some of the questions.
Thank you.
That the public hearing had.
Thank you, Penelope.
So with a new hospital, the excitement of a new hospital comes new opportunities for outpatient services. So the town, Chris Pettit, the interim town manager, he was like, we should do a actual text amendment to look at adding parking standards for ambulatory surgical facilities. Because when our code was written, we didn't have a hospital and we didn't have the opportunity for more smaller scale surgical places to be built. So many of these uses, like I say, were not originally contemplated in the town zoning ordinance. So we looked at DHEC's definition of an ambulatory surgical facility, and it's basically organized and administered for the purpose of performing surgical procedures and/or endoscopy for patients scheduled to arrive, receive surgery, and be discharged on the same day. This definition does not apply to any facility used as an office or clinic for the private practice of licensed healthcare professionals. Staff is proposing this amendment by adding the definition for this ambulatory surgical facilities and to add parking requirements for these facilities to I'm tongue-tied now. To differentiate them from medical offices, given that they are less staff-intensive and less patient-intensive per square foot. From a historical standpoint, I did look into Rock Hill, and I also, because there's a hospital, the town of Matthews, we basically, when it comes to these type of uses, we're not the we're basically like everyone else, the 4.5 per 1,000. But to look forward to more possibly, orthopedics, outpatient surgeries, or like this example that the citizens have talked about in public hearing, could actually reduce it. And that is what the proposal was for the reduction of this type of use. We took this text amendment to the Town of Fort Mill Planning Commission on May 21st. And basically, they recommended denial of this text amendment by a vote of 6-0. And primarily, it was because of thinking that there will still be parking for people that are coming to this outpatient, surgery. Somebody's going to have to drive them. They did not feel we should reduce parking. Tonight, at public hearing, Dr. Singh did present, I believe, some of the statistics versus ambulatory surgery center versus medical office building. I don't know if this is just specific for Carolina Cardiology or if it could be for any type of ambulatory surgery, but PC did not have that information that he presented tonight. So I just wanted to state that. In particular to some of the questions that Mr. Bryan and Dr. Singh was talking about, it's very site specific. Tonight, we're not talking site specific. We're talking about a text amendment to allow ambulatory surgical center to have reduction in parking. Now, for that specific site that they are talking tonight, where they've talked at the public hearing, that site, based on the site plan and the scale of the building that they would like to do, they did not meet the current parking requirements.
Prior to the text amendment.
Prior to the text amendment, that is correct. And Mr. Bryant wanted to go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. As you all know, the Board of Zoning Appeals, it does not grant you a variance for financial hardship. It has to be something physically. So staff, highly recommended for him not to go through the process because he would, spend money and also waste time for staff when we know it's not an actual physical hardship for them to grant that variance. And that, therefore, staff talked to the interim town manager, Chris Pettit, and asked him, can we do a text amendment and take it through the process? And that's what we are here tonight, to add the definition and also reduce the parking just for this type of use.
I know I might be simplistic on a given day, but it sort of sounds like we're headed the doctors and Mr. Pettit and staff are headed in the same direction, that we're looking at an alternative text amendment to allow them to build and operate with less parking because of the type of their operation.
Is
that correct?
That is correct.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we're looking into the future because now we have a hospital, and it's not just going to be Carolina Cardiology. It could be something Ortho Carolina.
Of course.
These type of
it makes sense.
Type of services, and so
God forbid that we should do something that makes sense. So
they've got one in Indian Land.
Yes, they
Operations
do.
Center in Indian Land, and it's got a small parking lot. And I've been there, and there's not that much traffic in and out of the parking lot.
And we do have, like Councilman Wolf asked the question about shared parking. They would have to arrange that with the adjacent property owners as well. There is an option in our ordinance.
For clarity for council, what's before us in the first reading is that we want to add an ordinance on parking standards that are specific to ambulatory surgical facilities that would embrace the idea that there's less needed because they're ambulatory.
So tonight, we're adding a definition that we never had in our ordinance for ambulatory surgical facilities, and we're also adding the parking standards. That's the only thing that we're adding from a conditional.
But that's kind of what these folks are asking for,
Yes,
is it not?
That is correct.
So if it changes to anything else, then it would not come to the standards of that ordinance, correct?
So if anything comes out, if a business goes away and they, do an upfit, they're going to have to, comply with all.
Before us or the
Well,
planning
no, not
commission.
before,
If
not
it's
before
zoned
the board.
properly.
If it's already zoned, they would come through staff to submit a site plan, go to the planning commission for commercial appearance review, and make sure they meet all the parking, landscaping setbacks. Now, I do want to state, just for the record, since we are talking about this site-specific use, when it comes to access points as well, some of these roads that we have in our town are not town-owned, they're state-owned.
Right.
So the applicant always knows that they have to get a separate encroachment permit where this body and staff does not issue that that permit. That goes with SCDOT, and the applicant is aware of that. But I just wanted to state, from this process, there's multiple avenues. There's the zoning, then it's the conditions of what's in our code, and then also with SCDOT.
Is it possible when we do the text amendment that we name the text amendment for ambulatory surgical centers so that if it changed to a Taco Bell, that they're not an ambulatory service, so they would have to change something else, right?
Yes, so that is what is in front of you tonight.
Okay.
This text amendment is basically adding the definition for ambulatory surgical facilities, and
Making
then
it very specific, which protects us.
yes, and it's
Okay.
by a
And allows them to
DHEC
operate.
definition, and then it also states the parking requirements, because it will be different than what we do today for medical office buildings.
So let me just regurgitate that. I'm all for the surgical, adding the specific, the
Text amendment
for the surgical facility, but I don't know that we're sounding like we're trying to put a square hole in a round peg in a square hole just because of the property. So I'm all for that, but I don't know that 3 is an accurate number. I don't know that 5 is an accurate part, and so that's where we're going to look to yourself and the planning commission on what is the right number for that, because these guys do great work. Matter of fact, I'm a patient of theirs, not these guys, but some other, and I think that it fits, and I think it's a specific for that type of office, but I just don't know what the right number is, and what I don't want to do is we're trying to shoehorn it into there.
Sure.
I think we're trying to be accommodating. Do we need to make an opportunity for you to clarify and vet the information that was presented tonight that was not presented to the Planning Commission previous, so that what we vote on will be accurate?
Well, what was presented to the Planning Commission was correct because the text amendment. Now, this information that was passed out, that's just supplemental based on what they are doing for their cardiology, for their site specific, but they are showing more examples of basically this type of surgical. To answer Councilman Wolf's comment, really, about, this is a new facility that's going on throughout the region more and more because it's much more affordable to have an outpatient than to stay in the hospital. Yeah. So one of the things when I did do my research, a lot of the jurisdictions around us are still at that 4.5 per 1,000. Town of Matthews had 5. A little bit half of a parking spot more. But he did tell me, the planning director in the town of Matthews said they are looking to do a text amendment to reduce it based on this type of new use. However, across the board, we're not stricter. We're at 4.5 for medical office, but this is a new use that we will be seeing more and more as outpatient facilities are being built.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is our text amendment, I'm getting closer to getting it. Our text amendment says 4.5. Is that what it says?
Our proposed text amendment today, we're asking 3 per 1,000.
You guys wanted 3.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good. I don't know, this seems to be overly
So
and
today
unnecessarily complicated.
today it's 4.5 for medical office.
But the text amendment.
And there was no opportunity for this type of use. It was classified under a medical office building, so that was the 4.5. This way, we're creating this for the ambulatory surgical facility outpatient, but we're not giving them the same standard of the parking for a medical office. We're reducing it to 3 from 4.5.
So it sounds to me that what we've proposed will answer their question. So
Yes,
I don't get the
if you're referring
complication.
to their site specific, yes.
No,
But we're
I-
doing this across the board for anyone that wants to do an ambulatory surgery.
So it's not specific to them
No,
either, so that's even
no.
better. I mean, not that you shouldn't get what you need, but I'm really, yes, sir?
So the parking concerns that you have, I think is very legitimate because any growth has to be planned out. And, what I would say is even if we have to do 12 procedures a day, we're going to have 2 operating rooms. So let's say 6 procedures. They are not going to be all throughout the day happening. So, most procedures an hour or hour or 2. So if you break it down into a day, even if there were 12 cars, most families will drop them off, pick them up. So you would have 6 car parking lots requirement per patient in the morning at most, and 6 in the afternoon. So even the morning people who came, they left, they could use the same parking spots, if you will, in the afternoon. So for patient flow purposes, even if we double, it's hard to do the capacity in those spaces, but even if you double, you will still be able to accommodate that because that spot is not taken for the entire day for those 8 patients. So I think it is a little bit of a recycling happening, so just wanted to clarify that.
I think it was brought up that if it were to change use, then it would have to go back for review to be compliant with parking. At that point, it would be built out.
If it wasn't ambulatory.
Right, correct.
If
But
it
at
was-
that point,
if
it
it
would
was
be
not
completely built
ambulatory.
out.
On the very bottom
It's
of that.
a paragraph says, the last paragraph on the sheet, this is only purpose of the medical surgical
Right, and
procedure.
I understand that, but I'm saying if it were to change uses,
Then you need a new apply for the zoning or rezoning.
The few of them that have done this in the state of South Carolina
Right.
and more in North Carolina, it's still like Penelope, it has to go back through review. You have to reapply for a different building, so.
but at that point, it's built out, so there wouldn't be a way to
Penelope, would
accommodate
you
it.
like to confirm or deny that they would have to come back to us? If it wasn't ambulatory, they would. If it was ambulatory, they would not, correct?
May I answer? Yes, ma'am. So if it is ambulatory, they meet it, they close, and some other use comes in, then they have to abide by the regulation, the
By their
parking
use.
standards by that use
Yep.
But
and
if
what's
it's-
in our code.
But if it's built out, you wouldn't be able to accommodate, if you can't accommodate it now.
No, and that's where they would
would
go
be
to a
forced to be a-
variance,
yeah,
the next
ambulatory.
person, or they cannot be in that
Open a building.
facility.
Yeah, we kind of seem to be looking for a problem.
No, these are real questions, I mean,
I understand, I do, but I don't understand. So, I mean, if it's zoned and it is a text amendment for ambulatory,
Right.
if it's not ambulatory, it's gotta come back. If it is ambulatory, it fits. So I don't understand why it's a problem.
Now, Penelope, go ahead.
I think we need to, thank you, but I think we need to stay within our boundaries at this point, okay? Thank you. Penelope, describe for me, please, why this is an issue.
Well, you know, we're progressive and friendly, the town of Fort Mill. This is a new, I'm reading that right, yeah.
It's right there. It's
It's a grasshopper. Grasshopper's head.
And, you know, there's uses now that were not in our code 40 years ago. And so this is a new type of use that is going on across America. And because we have a new hospital, you know, this is something that we believe as staff to do this text amendment, to have the definition, and then also to have a parking standard.
So that we can get clarity, and I definitely want my two folks that spent a lifetime on the planning commission to understand. Why did the planning commission vote 6-0 against a text?
Great question. Now, you said they did not have this count.
That's
They
what I
didn't have
thought.
this count,
Okay.
but if you read my report, you know, they didn't, I'll just read what they said. They said they did not believe should reduce the parking standards because adequate parking would be needed for employees. They kept on talking about how many number of employees. Well, tonight, you know, for Carolina Cardiology, I don't know for all the other, but what he's presented for that, Carolina Cardiology, would be full-time staff is 5 to 8. But that was an issue that they raised the question, you know, is there 15 employees? Is there
So if it
how
were
many
not,
doctors?
Yeah, if
So-
it were not cardiology ambulatory, but it were something else ambulatory, could it be more doctors?
It
Which
could.
would mean more.
It could.
than
And so
they-
that was their concern.
Is that their concern? The
That was their
genesis of their
concern.
concern?
And then again, you know, they said about family maybe coming to be there with the person that's having. But again, it's an outpatient, and they're not staying overnight. But that was a question that they.
I don't know about y'all, but when I had my cataract surgery in February, they told my husband he couldn't stay. He had to drop me off and leave. So that the parking was made available for those dropping off and picking up. So I don't know, but I'm throwing that in for interesting discussion, okay?
Yeah. And then the third
He's
thing,
shaking
they
his
did
head, too.
cite the Rock Hill location. A number of planning commission members cited
So,
that.
Penelope, so this building's proposed is 12,000 square foot. Is that what y'all are saying? So I just did the math, and I think this is all relevant conversation, but I do know the one at Rock Hill, which is not this, is general ambulatory surgery. It's a check-in. It's, the parking lot's maxed out every time I've been there, and I've been there multiple times. So I did the math with what y'all have done. 8 staff, each one driving a car, may or may not be true. That's 8 cars, 2 physicians, that's 2 more cars, that's 10. 12 surgery procedures today. And let's say everybody brings 2 cars, that's 34 cars. So 3 times 12,000, that's 36. So we would be under the number, or we'd be right at it. Even
and that's
with-
assuming
'cause
that all
most people
they're
don't
done at the
drop
same
off.
time,
I always had
exactly,
to sit in the lobby. I couldn't leave.
That's how we were raised.
No, I was,
Yeah.
but my concern is just to, not y'all, it's just like, I just don't want to create, I've seen it too many times, so we go, oh, this, that, and the other, and we shoehorn it in, and then there's always a problem. And that's why I ask if there would be an opportunity for shared parking. There's got to be parking lots all over that place up there, that the employees could park over there if they had to free it up for patients. We're not trying to be difficult, we're just trying not to create a problem. But according to the math that you've provided, that would be 34 cars, and you would have to have 36 spaces. Now, you'd also have to, would that include handicap spaces? So that would be 36, which would include handicap.
So is it possible within the text amendment that we're proposing that we make it uber specific to say it can't exceed, you know, the needs can't exceed the event? Can we do that?
I mean, your council, so if you want to add something,
Well, you said that that's what would happen, that would happen by default if another company or if another business came in and it didn't meet those requirements, then the business couldn't operate there.
Yeah, the business could not operate there, and then they would have to follow the other parking standards for that particular use, and that would just be done administratively. It wouldn't come back to council.
I guess it's hard to tell looking at the crystal ball, but I'm thinking we're accommodating, if we decide to accommodate this need, does that kind of set a precedent for other businesses moving forward? It's like, okay, we don't have as many people as what they do, so should we be allowed to reduce our amount of parking? Yeah, I know that's hard.
Again, the state allows us to do text amendments
Right.
for the purpose of changing ordinances, but again, that's the public process where you take it to the planning commission, they make a recommendation, public hearing, and then this council decides on what items they want to change.
Yes, for me, it's very specific to the change in how medical procedures are being addressed. That many of them, hey, I'm sitting here in front of a bunch of cardiologists. When I was little, if you had a heart attack, you died. That was it. You just died. You did not recover. There was no hope for you. You were done. Now, I'm sitting before people that tell me they can do an ambulatory center for cardiology, which is terrifying that you can do something to a heart and let them go home. I don't get it, but if they can do it, I'm impressed. So I think what we're saying is our old ordinance probably is outdated for the type of use that is today's preferred method. And that if we make it restrictive by the term ambulatory, then you can't put anything else in there. You just can't. Because it's only zoned for that, right?
Right.
And if somebody wanted to put something else in there that required more parking, they'd have to figure that out before we could approve it, right?
But it would be built out. But yes, I agree with you. Good, Jason.
So I just...
Now, with this
Nope.
particular project.
I know you want to help, but thank you.
If we change it to 3, how many parking spaces would that make them available for that building?
36.
36.
That's why I did the math right there. That's
Thank you for doing the math. Chris,
Is
do
that
you have
4.5 or-
objections?
Do we know 4.5? What it
No,
would be?
I mean, I'm all for this facility. I'm just trying to make sure we don't create, I've tried to learn from the previous mistakes, but that's what, this, I've seen where buildings get repurposed.
Like neighborhoods.
And it's all of a sudden, we should have caught it in the beginning. So I don't know if 3 is the number. 2 might be good, might need to be 6. I don't know. That's why I'm looking to Penelope. She's the expert. And what, if she's comfortable with 3, for this specific need, I guess I'm fine with that. I just don't want it, if it really should be 5, I just don't want it 2 years from now, we go, yeah, it should have been because there's 2 other guys wanting to build something, now we got a problem.
Yeah. Based on the research, we couldn't find, hard numbers that 3 is like the best number, but we looked at what is existing today is 4.5, and because we're creating a new definition for this type of service, we felt that that would be fair at 3. Now, because this is so new, I can't tell you that we may not have problems. We may have problems because this is such a new use, but we won't know because we don't have anything to compare with other jurisdictions.
And we just kind of follow that, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Mayor, if I did.
No, you're fine.
But if, and the reason we're trying to get it at 3 is because they have a specific piece of property. We still, let's say, if we say it's 5, I'm just throwing that out, but they still can build, they just got to find another piece of property. So I'm just we're not trying to shoot one.
I didn't
We're
think
not
the
doing
text,
site-specific.
The text is
amendment was
not,
for
but
them.
I'm using
No.
his numbers though.
I understand, but the text amendment proposal for
It's
the
for
3
anything.
was for anything. It was not specific
Yeah.
to this particular
I
owner
personally
and
would
use.
like to find out what other, I would actually prefer to, let's go see. The one in Rock Hill is way too small.
Well,
Every
the
time
one
I've
in
been
Rock
over there.
Hill is 4.5.
And it's always, I'm parking at the hospital. Yeah, I've been over there probably 6 times.
Now, like
And
city
the one in
issue-
Indian Land, it was also a problem. I had to park at, the one I was at's where they do the spinal thing.
What's on either side of this facility on Munn Road?
You would answer.
I am
Yeah.
going to ask you to answer.
If you're looking at the property, on the right side is the bank.
Yeah.
First Citizens Bank.
You won't have any
And
overflow
the other side
there.
is LPL, but they moved a lot of their offices over to the old mill, so. And that's when I had a discussion off the record that, I just didn't go any further with it, for
Right.
share.
Are you on the property where LPL is, or you're on the other side?
Other side.
LPL's on both sides. LPL went into the old mall.
Yeah, the old
Bilo.
Let's go
Old
Bilo.
I was gonna say.
Across the street next to this one on the left side is LPL.
It's a
and
vacant,
other-
vacant outlet.
They're in Kingsley too?
Yes.
Okay. Because Domtar's got a huge parking lot that's always open. That's kind of what.
That's right.
And I think that may be the problem in Rock Hill. I've been to the one in Rock Hill,
Right.
and the ancillary properties around it,
Are all
there's overflow. You know, there's people that are coming from both sides.
Right.
So I think this is not an issue that is going to be easily, but that's why I ask what's on either side.
In Rock Hill, when I did the orthopedic one, that's a shared they've got
Right.
offices in there. Same thing with the gastro group on there.
This guy's very nice. He's always raising his
I
hand.
know, bless him.
But
I
didn't mean to just give something.
There's just two things I want to comment. One is I had a meeting with these guys 5 o'clock at their office next to the surgery center. The surgery center was closed at 4. All the parking lot was full. I mean, that's the first observation I want to share with you. Number 2, really work on this tax amendment, because with the repeal of the CON on ASCs, you're going to see a rapid growth.
And that was a blessing to repeal that thing.
Yes.
I've spent
I'm looking for another job,
much
but
of my time.
but I'm helping them.
Yeah.
I'm helping them get a ambulatory surgery license. That's going to take 18 months, because we have to demonstrate to DHEC that we meet all these criteria, as well as that these guys are credentialed in doing what they can do. So, I mean, this is another process hurdle we have to address.
I find it amusing at best that the state was willing to tell us we didn't have a need when our population grew 3 times. 3 times over, that we didn't
I wrote
have a
that
need.
application that got denied. 3.5. This place is growing 3.5%. 52% of your population is going to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And the advantages for what they do, Medicare allowed for cardiac catheterization in this facility. Your community is going to greatly benefit from this project.
Okay, so let's not be project specific on a reading that is for the town, for a text amendment within an ordinance that would allow a change in the required amount of parking for an ambulatory center rather than for a medical office building, because people are coming and going, not coming and staying.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
That is
Is
correct,
that a
Mayor.
simplified version?
Yes.
Council, do you understand that perspective? Everybody? So, on this, it is first reading. You have 3 options. You can make a motion to approve on first reading, which will come back to us. You have the option to say no, and you have the option to say we'd like to defer until whatever other information that we didn't discuss tonight might be available. What is the will of this council?
Personally, I would like to defer to see if you could find other, because we're all for it. It's just the parking is the only, we're going to set a different parking requirement for this, and that's the only concern I have.
You can make a motion to defer if you choose. Every council member has the opportunity at this point to make a motion to help us move forward with this item.
If we approve it on first reading, I'll say we can do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And we still have that time to do the research and.
It's a month till second reading.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's correct.
Now, I do have a question of you said 60 facilities you've built like this. What were those requirements, those parking requirements in some of those other facilities? Have you had one that was 3?
Of similar size.
Similar size, yeah.
Yeah, 3 or nothing, but ordinance-wise, in Charleston, downtown Charleston, MUSC, there's no parking. So they just like, they've done that. But it's across the board, and so anywhere from 4.5 to 3, we got some I gave them some examples of them, so we have examples of them, and so it just depends on where it is or what it is,
My only thing is that at 12,000 square feet, the math works, but at 9,000 or 8,000 or 6,000,
yeah, and remember,
the math doesn't.
I hate to throw
That's the only
Pacific
problem.
in there because I like what you say about Pacific. But this building, the actual usage area is less than that because it has to have generators, it has to have oxygen, it has to have all. So out of that 12,000, the usage is probably about 9,000 square feet. The rest of it is all the stuff to go to the ORs and all that. So.
For what we have to go off of still.
Right.
Once again, I'll ask for the will of council. I don't get to make these motions, you guys do. I simply
I'll make a motion
facilitate.
to defer until, to gather additional information on what the Southeastern standard of similar sized towns or communities. Charleston's not a good example because it's a.
I think too,
what that
you
would
have to give credence in your deferral, that it's not about a town, it's about the size of and the use of the facility. Because that's where you get the warm bodies that need to come. It's not about where it is, but rather how it's used, right?
I'll defer to Penelope to make comparisons. The reason I say that Charleston, there is no parking in Charleston. It's all public parking for that.
Barry, can you help with the
Somebody
wording?
needs to make a second.
I'll second. I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. So,
3-2.
It was 3-2
To defer.
how'd you vote?
to defer.
Defer.
Defer?
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you for your help.
July 8th.
July
Okay.
8th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
New business item number 2, Resolution 2024 Independence Day. This should be relatively simple. Jacana, you want permission to have an event, right?
I was so caught up in all that.
We put you to sleep on the back road, didn't we?
No, that was interesting.
There was medical personnel on site that could have helped. Okay.
Yes, so we are seeking a resolution designating Walter Elijah Park, 345 North White Street on Wednesday, July 3rd from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. as the site of a public festival in which alcoholic beverages may be sold, possessed, and consumed, and to authorize a special event permit for live music and sound amplifying equipment, and to authorize a fireworks display for this date and time.
Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve new business item number 2.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We're on a roll. New business item number 3, 2024 firing of the cannons. Jacana.
And we're asking for a resolution designating the bandstand in Main Street as the site of a public event and to authorize a special event permit for live music, sound amplifying equipment, and firing of the cannons on Thursday, July 4th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve new business item number 3.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, thank you. All right, we have no information discussion items. We do not have an executive session, and it is almost 7:30. So if you briefly have something for the good of the whole, Mr. Hudgens.
Briefly, a reminder about the election tomorrow, that all of the people that are running for office, that under our town ordinances, that the signs have to be down in 7 days. So we look forward to June 18th, all of the political signs being down, and that in 60 days or in several months we may see them again. So looking forward not to seeing them again until September 6th, 60 days out from the election. So as a responsible person that is running for office or may get a chance to run for office, just to remember those and the way it works in the town of Fort Mill.
Thank you. To Ben, I would like to supplement what you've just said. We do have specific requirements for posting signs in the town of Fort Mill. Those are handed out at the time that anyone registers for office. I am making a recommendation to this council that we have those people that are establishing and filing to run sign that, so they turn it back into us that it was read. Because no one has adhered to what was given to them. If you can't adhere to a simple sign ordinance, So, I would like to put that on a future agenda, and we'll talk about it, okay? Is that all right with y'all?
Love it.
Okay.
The irony of law enforcement personnel not following laws.
Go figure, you know? All right.
That's true. The police have locks on their lockers.
What you got for us, Mr. Garrison?
We just had the Memorial Day celebration just a couple weeks ago. I want to thank Benny Patterson and the American Legion for all that they do, not only with the town event but also with the Murph Challenge that we had that morning. I want to thank my son, Sully Garrison, for playing a version of taps that will, if it doesn't make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, then you got to see the cardiologist and see if you got a pulse. So amazing celebration. Last minute we had to change the venue. Jacana, you and your team did an amazing job of having that plan B ready to go where it seemed like it was seamless. It was a little warm in there, but we were all doing it together. So
nobody left.
That's right. 4th of July coming up. 4th of July is coming up, so which means you need to have your dogs, chipped and everything now, and not wait until July 3rd to think about those things, or if they need medications for fireworks and everything else. And as far as fireworks, be smart and be respectful. Even though you're not supposed to shoot them off, everybody's going to. Just be respectful. That is a work day on the 5th for most people, so don't shoot them off until midnight, please. Thank you.
Ronnie?
Went to Jazz in the Park, Jacana. It was very good. Enjoyed the music.
Yes.
Enjoyed the night. It was a wonderful celebration.
It was.
Mr. Wolf.
So to follow up on Jazz Night at Walter Elijah was a wonderful event. It was well attended by all ages, and it was also hats off to the events team and Public Works and the police and everybody else. It's a big event. In addition to the music, it gave me a great opportunity to speak with many of the Fort Mill originals and newcomers alike. Overall, the feedback was very positive, and it seems this council's overall goals are in sync with the community. Preserve the charm and culture of the town, the quality of life, and overall identity of Fort Mill. Obviously, there were several people that was traffic, and stop the growth. But overall, it's very positive. Why people move here, why they love it. That event was just another example of the quality of life in Fort Mill. It was a great. Summer's here. More people are going to be out. The weather, enjoying the weather. Kids are at play. Please put your phone down when you're driving and slow down. Use some common sense, and look forward to see everybody on July 3rd and 4th.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to start with the easy one, and one you hear me say frequently. People, I'm tired of seeing litter. I'm tired of people driving vehicles without their trash and the things they're taking to the green boxes secured. So they're all over the bypass. That means that our folks, if we're lucky, we get to go pick it up so that someone doesn't have an accident because they hit a board or something else that fell off of your truck or out of your trunk. Stop littering. I see people out picking up trash, putting it in bags on their own, and I know they didn't put it there. Right. I know they didn't. For instance, it's not just on the roadways. I visited our new tennis facility recently, saw a kid that took a drink bottle and threw it over the fence in the playground. I don't have much restraint, so I charge off of my tennis court with my racket and go, "What did you just do?" "I don't know." I said, "What'd you throw over the fence?" "I don't know. It was just in your hand." So, guys, I'm sorry, but it takes a community. It takes a village. Please, I didn't hurt the child, but we don't need to be teaching our children that it's okay to trash up something that all of us paid for, all of us built. We should all keep it maintained for the good of the whole. It's not just our utility people's job to pick up stuff. It's our job not to put it out there. So please, please stop littering. I dislike it very much. I think it's very interesting, too, that as we come together tonight, Council's very, very grateful for the efforts that helped us to come to close on the two buildings that we are purchasing up on White Street. The old executive office, pilot office that will become our city hall, and our police department and the Pike building are near and dear to the hearts of all those in Fort Mill. So we're very pleased and proud. I want to make certain that it gets said we won't be moving immediately into those buildings. We have some work. One of them's been vacant for 5 years. We have some work that needs to be done to accommodate the use and the functionality, but I think you're all going to be very proud of what we're creating for the town of Fort Mill. So, congratulations, council members, and my hat's off and many, many thanks to our staff for all the hard work that you've done to make that possible. Again, thank you for the Memorial Day service. It was a quick change to move. Again, the weather hasn't participated with us well this year. It was very, very poignant. I think it was one of the biggest crowds we've ever had. I do. It also points out we need some air conditioning in that building. But it coincides with tomorrow and July the 4th. Folks, voting is not necessarily a right. It's a privilege. It's an honor to be able to determine with your vote whom you would like to see in leadership roles. We have some of the lowest percentages of voting I've ever seen anywhere. It's incredibly apathetic and disconnected. But when it comes to complaining about what's not right, I assure you we're ahead of the field. We are absolutely Johnny on the spot if it's something that's not great. So how about taking some of that energy and applying it tomorrow and going and voting? You could have voted all week last week with no waiting line whatsoever. But please do that. Many people sacrifice their lives for us to be able to vote. Do it. Go vote. Thank you to my council for your patience as we grapple with issues that we don't always agree with, but we leave here in good stead with one another and with respect for one another. Absolutely. So thank you, and I'll entertain. Oh, and congratulations to all the graduates. I forgot about that happened too. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
One more thing, Catawba Ridge softball.
Oh, yeah.
State champs again. Yes. Congratulations.
Well, Virginia, will you add them to the list for the last meeting of this month, please? The last meeting of this month, we will be honoring some very special people in our community. So if you would add that to the list, I would be very, very grateful. Thank you, Virginia.
And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
A second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All
Y'all
those
can
opposed?
stay here if you want.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.